Hello, everyone. Right now, we are in a very sacred and special place. This country is Greece. The city we are in is called Athens. For those who love the Olympics, this name should be familiar. As far as I know, Greek mythology has become a major influence on Western history. Based on Greek mythology, Western philosophy gradually developed, as well as customs, laws, and a series of other things. It is indeed something very sacred. It's wonderful here. Such a spiritually rich place not only gave rise to all these gods, such as Athena, Poseidon, Zeus, and many others. A place blessed by deities is truly different. It is vastly rich in resources. Look at the white marble that is here. It's everywhere. There are many buildings constructed using marble here. This amazing place we are at is also the home of the father of Western philosophy. He grew up here. In front of us are statues of three great masters. Let me introduce the first one. His name is Socrates. These three masters are related to each other. The philosopher Socrates, he came first. The second one is named Plato. Plato was a student of Socrates. The third figure is Aristotle. Aristotle was a student of Plato. These are not legends, they were real people. They lived around 2,300 years ago. It was a remarkable era. If you're not familiar with Aristotle, I'm sure you've seen movies about Alexander the Great. He was a legendary king in Western history. Alexander the Great was a student of Aristotle. This is interesting, right? These are true historical figures. They are the founders of philosophy. Truly remarkable. So their stories are definitely worth listening to and learning from. Today, let's introduce the first master, Socrates.
Socrates was born in 470 BC. He was a great philosopher of ancient Greece. Known as the father of Western philosophy, he left no writings of his own, but guided people to seek truth through the Socratic method, inspiring thought through questioning. By challenging traditional beliefs, he defended the truth with his life. His wisdom and courage not only shook his time, but also illuminated the path of philosophy for future generations. What makes him special is that he loved asking questions. He helped people learn and grasp concepts through questions. Every day, his passion led him to the center of the Athenian square. He would ask questions of people from all walks of life. He even questioned politicians on leadership. He asked teachers what virtue is. He asked young people about their understanding of life. One day, Socrates asked an Athenian general, "What is courage?" The general replied, "Courage is holding one's position and confronting the enemy." Then Socrates asked, "Is fighting illness considered courage?" "I think that's quite courageous." The general agreed and said, "That makes sense. I change my views. I now believe courage is perseverance and determination." Socrates countered by saying, "If I persist in something beautiful and noble, that is courage. But if a person persists in something ignoble or bad, that cannot be called courageous." The general agreed. Because we are discussing a courage as a virtue. Socrates then said, courage cannot be simply defined. Even soldiers defending the front lines cannot be simply defined as being persevering and courageous. How do we define courage? The general scratched his head, pondering. At this moment, the general felt that he hadn't fully understood the definition of courage.
It's a dialectical view of a common concept everyone knows. When we talk about courage in soldiers, first is following orders. The second is attacking without fear of death, right? Or perhaps killing more enemies. This is usually called bravery. This discussion makes courage a topic worth exploring. I think courage depends on the perspective. For example, from a family's point of view, a family member doing something that benefits the family seems like an act of courage, right? I charge forward without fear. Even when a formidable enemy comes, I confront them. Protecting the family is considered courageous by the family, but not from the perspective of the invader. You're the bad person in their eyes. They might call you the enemy or villain. They use descriptive terms with negative connotations. The words reflect their thoughts. Courage depends on who is looking at it, or whose actions and which events define it. It has no definite definition. This is our experience. The conclusion of the analysis, guided by the master, is like this.
It allowed us to view things dialectically.
It challenges our inherent understanding of the world.
He's a philosophical master after all. Very interesting.
Grandmaster, I found a story about Socrates. A conversation between him and his disciple, Plato. This story is called, What is Love?
What is love?
It's very interesting. One day, Plato, who was his student, asked Socrates, what exactly is love? After hearing this question, Socrates did not answer immediately. He took Plato to a wheat field. Socrates told Plato to pick the largest and most golden ear of wheat and bring it back to him. But Socrates added a condition: you can only move forward. You cannot turn back to pick any wheat you have passed. Plato entered the wheat field, and when he came out, he hadn't picked a single ear of wheat. Socrates asked his student, why didn't you pick any of the wheat? Plato replied, Teacher, you said I can only move forward and cannot turn back. I couldn't be sure if the wheat by my side was the biggest and best. I always thought there'd be something better ahead, so I kept walking. When I reached the edge of the field, the ears of wheat there weren't as good as those before. I could only walk out empty-handed. At this moment, Socrates laughed heartily. He said, My disciple, that is love.
This is what love is. While in love, aren't you also looking for something better? It seems so. There are those who cheat in the relationship. Their hearts haven't settled yet. They are hoping to find something better. Do women also have this mindset? Thinking there's something better. Some do, probably. Then due to age and various other reasons, they say, I'll just get married, even if he's not my dream partner. There's that kind of feeling involved. That's Socrates' explanation of love.
You are also choosing, thinking the next one is better. You might have missed it already.
Sometimes, when we shop, we have this feeling, right? It's similar to choosing wheat ears and being in love. When you shop and want to buy a teacup, you find one that looks quite good, but then think, maybe there's something better. After wandering the store for 3 hours, you realize the first one was the best. Why did I go in such a big circle? But you are now reassured in your mind you have the best one.
Grandmaster, Socrates, and Plato had more conversations. This time it's about marriage.
How fun.
One day, Socrates gave Plato another assignment. He asked Plato to go and cut down the biggest tree in the forest and bring it home. Just like last time, he could only cut one tree, and he could only move forward. Plato followed his teacher's instructions and entered the forest. This time, he completed the task. He brought back a rather ordinary-looking tree. When Plato returned, Socrates asked him, "Why did you bring back an ordinary tree?" Plato said, "Teacher, I learned from last time. After walking a good part of the way, I thought this tree wasn't too bad. If I went further, I might not find a better one, so I cut it down and brought it home." Socrates replied, "That is marriage."
Why is there a sense of helplessness?
It's about knowing when to stop.
This feeling seems so real to me. I feel that many people's marriages are like this. Afraid the next one might be even less suitable. They hold on to someone who seems okay and just go with it. Eventually, it leads to marriage, just like that. This story is actually quite good. Very interesting.
Grandmaster, there's more. One day, Plato asked his teacher, "What is happiness?" Socrates told Plato, "Go to the field and pick the most beautiful flower." The rules were the same as the previous 2 times. And so off Plato went. But this time, the outcome was very different. He picked a flower that was big and beautiful. And after returning, Socrates asked him why he chose that one. Plato answered, "I picked a very beautiful flower. As I continued to move forward, I discovered other beautiful flowers. But my heart did not waver. I firmly believed that the flower I had was the most beautiful. And indeed, this flower was the most beautiful, at least in my heart." Then Socrates replied to him, "Very good, you have understood what happiness is. Happiness is very personal, it's a feeling in your heart, right?"
I feel happiness, love, and so on. These are decisions you make in your heart, right? Some people also talk about the issue of food. What's the most delicious food? Shyanka, what's your favorite food?
It's definitely Hainanese chicken rice.
I think sticky rice dumplings are fragrant and sweet. They're the most delicious. The definition of beauty or goodness is something that's felt personally. For example, food, it brings you a feeling of delicious taste. This sense of deliciousness. There might be a moment when you find it exceptionally so. I remember eating a rice dumpling many years ago. That day, I was really starving. I don't remember why I was so hungry. Maybe I ran too much and couldn't get back home. I wandered around for another 3 hours. I went to an auntie's house to rest a bit, not expecting to eat anything there. She mentioned she had cooked rice dumplings the day before. I smelled the fresh aroma of rice dumplings, but I didn't dare say anything. The auntie was experienced. She sensed my feeling and guessed I was hungry. She warmed up some dumplings and brought them to me, even unwrapping them. The moment the rice dumplings appeared, the fresh aroma of the bamboo leaves hit me. The combined fragrance was overwhelming. It smelled delicious even without eating it. When I ate it, it was the most delicious thing in the world. It left a good impression on me. What food is the best then? For me, the best are rice dumplings. For you, it's ramen. For you, it's chicken rice. You see, when it comes to being tasty or not, it's all up to the individual. In a lifetime, you eat a lot of different foods. The ones that leave a beautiful, deep impression on you are those eaten under certain conditions. In those situations, you think that is the best. I think happiness, and even love, are like that too. It's not something absolute. It's possible that Socrates wanted to remind us of that. That the love we define, along with what is best, most beautiful, and most glorious, is actually a feeling in your heart. What you consider the best, others might dismiss as trash. But you believe it's the best. Someone told me a story, I just recalled it, let me share it with you. At a certain university, there was a beautiful girl. Everyone thought she was the most beautiful girl on campus. She had countless admirers, definitely over 100. Every day after school, she would receive love letters and small cards. She received several every day. She had an endless stream of suitors. But she would say, I want to find true happiness. What is true happiness? She had her standards. For example, he must be handsome and tall. She wanted someone over 1.86 meters tall. He needs to be a university graduate and come from a wealthy family. It sounds like she was looking for a prince. When in university, many people pursued her, but she remained unmoved. She remained indifferent and unimpressed. The prince she wanted hadn't appeared yet. Then one day, he finally appeared. He drove a very beautiful sedan. At that time, there were no sports cars, just some nice sedans. The guy's father was the wealthiest businessman in the city. They had a vast family fortune. He also started to pursue the girl. The girl was very happy. Every time anyone mentioned the guy, they also mentioned how wealthy he was. Look, he drove his father's expensive car, and he himself is so handsome. He even walks in a handsome way. As soon as this young man asked her out, she gladly accepted. They went to the most expensive restaurant in the city for the date. He got on one knee and proposed on the spot. They hadn't even dated yet, and he already proposed. He went on, I spent over $2.5 million on this ring. He had bought a large and precious ruby ring. It represents my love for you. Hearing this, the girl was moved to tears. Her entire family's assets combined weren't worth $100,000. Just one piece of jewelry was over $2.5 million. She almost fainted. Isn't this guy amazing? You're so rich, handsome, and generous. If he didn't truly love me, how could he be so generous? I think I'm in love. She accepted his proposal, and he placed the ring on her finger. But sometimes good things take time, and the plot suddenly twists. A year later, the guy's father declared bankruptcy. The father's company was in crisis. This bankruptcy was real, causing a great stir in the city. The boy tried every possible way to borrow money. He even sold their furniture and the watches he wore. They were already married. The girl tried to help. Don't go around like that. People are after you. Here, take this $2.5 million ring and sell it. Use the money to repay them. Her husband replied, that thing's worthless. I spent $200 on it back then to fool you.
Her happiness shattered completely.
Oh my God, she exclaimed. Is your love for me real or fake? He said, loving you is real, but the gem is fake. She felt as if she'd been struck by lightning and called him a liar. She cursed at him and started crying. She felt deceived. You only liked my wealth then? The husband accused her. Am I not handsome or not tall enough? My family has no money now. but I was wealthy before. At this moment, the girl realized, I really did like your family's money. She had to admit it. This is my own doing, this is my retribution. Why did I agree to your proposal just for your money? Heaven has taught me a painful lesson. They still got divorced. The divorce judge asked them the reason for their divorce. The girl said, he became poor, so I don't like him anymore. Upon hearing this, the judge said, you should divorce. They got divorced. Funny, isn't it?
She was truly happy once. That ring and what it meant was everything to her.
Even a fake gemstone ring still brought happiness, but the truth could not be known. Once it's exposed as fake, the sense of happiness vanishes instantly. It's gone. The happy feelings vanish too. You start saying things like, being with a liar like you makes me sick to my stomach. Your thoughts influence your physical reactions. If you're looking for a partner, don't buy fake items.
Now comes the question. Why did Socrates choose the method of questioning to teach others? He doesn't directly say it.
Humans possess a certain level of spirituality. For example, we have judgment, thinking ability, memory, and the ability to compare, right? There are many aspects of wisdom. The hope is that when you converse with people, it becomes a stimulating exchange. It's like playing chess. You make a move, I make a move. We inspire each other. In all philosophical studies, or in the practice of the way, the content of the dialogue is philosophical. The best way to explore this content is through dialogue. In Buddhism, there is a concept called koan meditation, which is contemplation on the key phrase of a dialogue. Through dialogue, I come to a profound understanding of the matter. A profound understanding means a fundamental understanding. If you don't engage in dialogue, your understanding might take 10 years to reach a fundamental level. But, through dialogue, you might understand it in 3 days.
I understand. Is it that during dialogue, you engage in critical thinking? Every time a question arises, both parties are reflecting on it.
Thinking itself is a process that, especially when combined with time, sound, and emotions, can quickly stimulate and continually elevate you. Imagine if 2 people talk for an hour how much they have spoken. If you consider each sentence as laying a brick, you've already laid 10 kilometers.
Grandmaster, Socrates is most known for his dialectical method of questioning and answering. He also proposed another important idea: virtue is knowledge. Knowing what is right and wrong can make us better people. He believed that to be accomplished, one needs virtue.
2,300 years ago. The times are similar in both the East and the West. Everyone knows these 3 sages. They were Lao Tzu, Confucius, and Sun Tzu. Later, there was also Han Fizi, a Chinese legalist philosopher. In India, the Buddha emerged around this time. The same era, perhaps the Buddha came slightly earlier. During this era, the studies of these Chinese masters were somewhat similar. For example, there's a saying, those who gain the way have much support, those who lose the way have little. What is gaining the way? Gaining the way is knowing the truth of life.
Grandmaster, why did all these great philosophers appear in the same period?
It's a very mysterious question. I can only answer it plainly. I think this way is more truthful. At that moment, some unknown deity in the heavens felt that humanity couldn't continue to exist in such ignorance. At that time, for the humans, the tribes and different ethnic groups, the closer they were, the more conflicts arose. Look at any country. You'll find that they have conflicts with their neighbors. Your worst enemies are often your neighbors, right? There are not many enemies separated by oceans. They can't reach each other, so they can't argue. The closer they are, the more hatred there is. That era was brutal. Even today, you may hear about some remote area in the world where there are cannibals. They eat people and hang up their enemies' heads. In ancient times, it was very common. They slaughtered pigs and sheep, ate the meat, and then stretched the skins to dry. Once dried, they used them as mats. The same was done to humans. It was a very miserable time. Why did people study the way? It's because no one wants themselves and their family, especially the elderly and children, to live in a place where safety is not guaranteed. They felt the world was too chaotic. We should live in a place without fear, war, conspiracy, or slaughter. They started to study how to act, how to behave in a way that makes the world more pleasing to us, in accordance with the way of heaven. They began to study the heavens and the way. Finally, they discovered that heaven cherishes the preservation of life. That's why the earth can nourish and grow crops and fruits to feed us, right? This is the way of nature. We are a species born from this natural law. We should emulate this way. We shouldn't just kill recklessly. Through conversation and gestures of friendship, issues can be resolved. There's no need for weapons or death. Why resort to killing? That's why there are friendly exchanges and diplomacy. Peace, trade, communication, and exchange of goods lead to exchange of ideas showing everyone is the same. Why go to war? Heaven cherishes life. This virtue is a precious state of mind. Without the concept of morality being instilled, the deaths and killings would be more brutal. Humanity, through killing each other, would walk to our own demise. But heaven values and cherishes life. At that time, heaven sent divine spirits, whether through possession or some kind of energy. After they were infused into different people, the people gained many inspirations. Take the great master Socrates, for example. He seems to have been born to study this matter. Whatever topic he discussed with you, it ultimately all came back to the understanding and comprehension of morality. The aim is to elevate the moral standards of the humankind, to enable humanity to at least continue normally into the future. This is my understanding.
Grandmaster, I would like to ask, Socrates pursued the essence of things. What benefits does this pursuit bring to people and society?
I believe there are many benefits. If we use our bodies and senses today, or even our thoughts, to understand the heavens and the universe, it's impossible, right? Even using a telescope, you still can't see what the universe truly is. Even though spaceships have been traveling in space for so long, we still don't understand what the universe is. Therefore, they adopted a new method, use the small to understand the big. We study our daily life and work, or the essence of a stone or a flower in nature. We use that research to understand the world. For example, we're studying to understand a teacup. We consider what it was before it became a teacup. Doesn't it provoke thought? So now I asked you both this question. Please answer it. Before this cup became a cup, what were its major elements of composition? Soil, water, and paint. All right, so this soil, before it became the base for this cup. What was this soil before that? For example, 100 million or 1 billion years ago, it might have been in a gaseous state. And what about this color? 1 billion or 5 billion years ago, was it this color? Is this eternal and unchanging? It's not. There is nothing eternal in the world. If you understand this point, isn't that understanding the way? What does that mean? To have a fundamental, ultimate, and true understanding of all things. Let's say we're talking about your dad's expensive Zisha teapot. Your brother accidentally broke it. Your dad wants to punish him, and your brother is afraid to return home. This matter can now easily be resolved. Just tell your dad, 1 billion years ago, there was no such teapot set. 100 years from now, you and my brother will no longer exist. Nothing is eternal. It breaks because it exists. One broken cup is a loss of one. Now my brother has run away, making it 2. What if you follow from anger? Losing 2 people to a cup, is it worth it? Your dad will become enlightened. That's it. When we understand the true nature of things, we gain insight. In fact, this is the way. Understanding many seemingly small things can be expanded to even the largest matters in the world. Over a decade ago, I remember there was a fire in Indonesia. It burned for 2 to 3 years. This is a fact. Singapore felt it the most. The Singapore government thought they were burning forests. The Indonesians said no, it was a previous fire that never went out. A group of experts tried to find out who started the fire. From police to scientists, everyone investigated. Eventually, they released a statement. The statement read as follows: after 3 years of investigation, we concluded that someone once drank a beer here. After drinking the beer, they tossed the beer bottle into the air. When it fell, it hit a rock. The bottom of the bottle focused sunlight onto the forest leaves below. The dry leaves caught fire. Did you ever play this game as a child? Using a bottle bottom to focus light on paper? It ignites. That's how the bottle ignited the dry leaves. It eventually led to a devastating fire. The Indonesian government said that with these results, we have nowhere to vent our anger. Our forest is so vast. If you were to sell the wood, it could sell for $10 billion. This forest could catch fire even without anyone lighting it. In ancient times, fire was a divine act. A lightning strike could set the entire forest ablaze. This is the way of nature. Ultimately, these great scientists recognized the laws of nature. You can't escape it. Isn't this the truth? I believe the way of heaven is the truth. This is just a brief understanding of Socrates. This preliminary summary gave me profound inspiration. He was a very wise person. He practiced his studies throughout his life, engaging in daily discussions with people. His purpose was to ultimately explore what the truth is. What is true virtue? He also reminds us to learn to think. We must be able to think and reflect on what we know and do, or everything we believe and love. Do not be a person who cannot think. As ancient Chinese philosophers said, we should reflect 3 times a day. even if we can't do it 3 times a day. We should summarize and reflect on our actions every week. Reflect on all our actions and attitudes over the past week. It is very necessary. He strongly advocated that everyone should strive to be a moral person. If we are moral, our social order will be perfect. Conflicts and disputes between people will be greatly reduced. My understanding is, if you understand the principles, disputes will lessen. Pain and troubles will decrease. If you don't, there will be disputes and troubles everywhere. Moral people are usually altruistic, beneficial to others. Ultimately, it benefits the entire society. If the world had more moral people, the world would become a better place. Thank you all for your support and for listening to me. This is all I have to say about the great Socrates. In the next session, we will introduce his disciple, the great thinker Plato. How fun! Please tune in then. That's all for today. I wish everyone health and longevity, happiness and joy.
Received.
See you next time.
Thank you, Grandmaster.
小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇，我智慧了。